My name is Carol. Standing in my small Boise apartment, looking at the two familiar figures through the peephole, I felt a mix of dread and determination. My parents had found me, and their voices seeped through the door, demanding I open up and fix the mess I'd made. But this time, I wasn't going to cave in. It all started back in Austin, where I'd been living a life that seemed normal on the surface. I was part of a middle-class family. My parents, Mr. and Mrs. Thompson, were well known in the local community. My father was a strict and traditional man, always believing in the family hierarchy, and my mother was a master at emotional manipulation, using guilt as her weapon. I had a younger sister named Lily, who was 25 and had 2 kids. I'd just come off an incredibly tough month at work. I was a project manager at a tech startup, and we'd been in the middle of a high-stakes project. My phone was glued to my hand, and sleep was a luxury. But finally, it was over, and I'd earned a substantial Q4 bonus. It felt like a breath of fresh air after being underwater for so long. One Saturday, I went to my parents' house for what I thought would be a regular family dinner. I casually mentioned the bonus, like I would mention the weather. But as soon as the words left my mouth, Lily's eyes lit up. Without asking how I was or congratulating me, she leaned in and said I should give her half of it. When I looked at her in disbelief, she quickly added that she had kids to take care of, as if that made her demand unarguable. I laughed, thinking it was a joke. I expected my parents to tell her to be reasonable. Instead, my mother calmly said, "Family helps family," and my father scowled at me, saying, "You're so selfish, only thinking about yourself." In an instant, I went from being their proud daughter to their money source. I didn't argue. I just stood up, pushed my chair back, and left. On the drive back to my place, I realized that my family had never really cared about me. They only saw me as a means to solve their financial problems. I remembered all the times in college when I worked extra shifts and lived on ramen, thinking it was just temporary. When I started earning well and Lily needed help, I thought it was what a good sister should do. But now, I saw it for what it was, a role they'd assigned me for their own benefit. That night, I took action. I transferred my entire bonus to a new account that only I knew about. I changed my direct deposit, reset all my passwords, enabled 2-factor authentication, and removed all trusted devices except mine. I also froze my credit and set up real-time fraud alerts. It was like building a fortress around my finances. The next morning, my phone started going crazy. Lily sent pictures of my niece and nephew, saying they didn't deserve to suffer because of me. My mother left voicemails asking me to call back and talk like adults, and my father texted me commands to come over and sort things out. Lily's messages got more and more aggressive, accusing me of being a bad sister and a villain who hoarded money while the kids went without. Then, one evening, I got a notification from my credit monitoring app. Someone had tried to open a new line of credit in my name. I knew it was Lily. She was willing to cross any line to get her hands on my money. I handled the situation calmly, like I would at work. I reported the fraud, got a case number, and started documenting everything. I sent an email to my parents, stating that there had been a fraudulent attempt. I'd reported it, and from then on, I'd only communicate via email. My sister's husband, Tom, called me. He was a quiet and kind man who usually stayed out of family drama. He told me that he'd found credit card notices and past due letters in the garage, and Lily had been on the phone with my mother, saying she needed my bonus or everything would fall apart. He also said that Lily hadn't denied trying to use my information. I was relieved to hear the truth, but I was also angry that my family was still trying to blame me. I decided it was time for a change. I met with my building manager to end my lease early and confirmed with my work that I could work remotely. I chose Boise as my new home, a place far enough from my family so they couldn't just show up at my door. In Boise, my life became peaceful. I found a small apartment near a beautiful park, joined a local book club, and met a wonderful man named Jake. He was kind, understanding, and never asked about my family's drama. Back in Austin, the consequences for Lily started to pile up. She had to sell her car, and Tom moved out. My parents were furious, but they blamed me instead of Lily. They sent me a letter demanding that I come home and fix the family. And then, one quiet afternoon, they showed up at my door. As I stood there holding the doorknob, I took a deep breath. I opened the door halfway, blocking their entry. My mother forced a smile, and my father looked angry. They told me to come home and fix the mess, but I calmly refused. My mother tried to trip me, saying Lily and the kids were suffering, and my father scolded me for being disrespectful. I told them that I wasn't going to erase the consequences of Lily's actions. I said that respect wasn't the same as obedience. My mother threatened that I'd lose the family if I didn't fix things, but I replied that if the only way to keep the family was by paying for their love, I'd lost it a long time ago. I closed the door, locked it, and leaned against it. I knew that this was the end of an old chapter and the beginning of a new, healthier one. I'd learned that setting boundaries was not selfish. It was necessary for my own well-being. And I was ready to protect myself from any future attempts at manipulation. A few months later, I ran into Lily at the grocery store. She looked tired and ashamed. She apologized, and for the first time, I believed she meant it. She asked if we could get coffee and just talk, without any mention of money. I didn't answer right away. I wanted to take my time and decide if I was ready to let her back into my life, but I knew that I was finally in control of my own story.